for convening has arrived. The Senate will come to order. At this time, I will ask all unauthorized persons to leave the chamber. I recognize the senator from the 51st.
Good morning, Mr. President. The journal has been read and it appears flawless.
And it appears flawless. Thank you, gentlemen from the 51st. I would also point out that you are pitching in instead of the senator of the 53rd today.
As you, sir, for the Lieutenant Governor.
Amen. The journal is found to be correct. Is there objection to the dispensing of the reading of the journal? The journal is being dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills or resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk. First reading and reference of the Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Resolution 1016 by Senator Thompson V, a resolution urging the members of the Georgia Congressional Delegation, co-sponsor and press for passage of the Prevent All Soaring Tactics Act, and encourage the United States Department of Agriculture to finalize the proposed horse protection and for other purposes.
The Secretary will read the reports of standing committees. Senate Resolution 1016 assigned to Agriculture. The Secretary will read the reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, Senate Committee on Economic Development and Tourism has had our consideration of following legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. Senate Resolution 953 do pass. House Bill 489 do pass by substitute. House Bill 899 do pass. House Bill 995 do pass by substitute. Senator Dugan of the 30th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Natural Resources and the Environment has had our consideration of following legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. House Bill 792 do pass by substitute. House Bill 879 do pass. House Bill 785 do pass by substitute. Senator Harper the 7th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Banking and Financial Institutions had our consideration of following legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. House Bill 780 do pass by substitute. House Bill 866 do pass. Senator Ligon of the 3rd. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Education and Youth has had our consideration on the following legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. House Bill 494 do pass by substitute. House Bill 655 do pass by substitute. House Bill 740 do pass by substitute. House Bill 743 do pass. House Bill 852 do pass. Senator Tibbins of the 37th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Public Safety has had our consideration on the following legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. House Bill 714 do pass. House Bill 856 do pass. House Bill 898 do pass by substitute. House Bill 703 do pass by substitute. House Bill 487 do pass. House Bill 761 do pass. Senator Albers of the 56th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Judiciary has had our consideration on the following legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. House Bill 121 do pass. House Bill 381 do pass by substitute. House Bill 732 do pass. Senator Stone of the 23rd. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Finances had our consideration of fund legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. House Bill 697 do pass. House Bill 723 do pass. House Bill 793 do pass. House Bill 820 do pass by substitute. House Bill 929 do pass. Senator Hofstadter of the 52nd. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Transportation has had our consideration of fund legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. House Resolution 444 do pass by substitute. House Bill 930 do pass by substitute. Senator Beach of the 21st. Mr. President, Senate Committee on State Institutions and Properties has our consideration of following legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. House Resolution 1103 do pass by substitute. Senator Harbison of the 15th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations had our consideration of following legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. Senate Bill 487 do pass. Senate Bill 481 do pass. House Bill 845 do pass. House Bill 991 do pass. House Bill 933 do pass. House Bill 1017 do pass. Senator Crook of the 13th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations, our consideration of following legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. House Bill 442 do pass. House Bill 600 do pass. House Bill 838 do pass. House Bill 900 do pass. House Bill 911 do pass. Senator Kirk of the 13th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Health and Human Services has our consideration of the following legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. House Bill 701 do pass. House Bill 927 do pass by substitute. House Bill 972 do pass by substitute. Senator Unterman of the 45th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Retirement has had a consideration following legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. House Bill 588 do pass. Senator Black of the 8th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor has had a consideration following legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. House Bill 800 do pass. House Bill 818 do pass. Senator Jones of the 25th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Rules has had a consideration following legislation instructing board the same back to the Senate following recommendation. Senate Resolution 995 do pass. Senator Moles of the 53rd. And Mr. President, Senate Committee on Higher Education has had a consideration of final legislation instructing board and sent back to the Senate for recommendation. Senate Resolution 977 due pass Senator Miller of the 40th. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Thank you, sir. The Secretary will read bills and resolutions for the second time.
Senate Resolution 967 by Senator James the 35th, Wind House and Perfect Love Foundation. Recognize Unified Georgia Day. Recognize March 8th, 2018. That concludes the order.
It's now time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Any motions to excuse? Senator from the 34th, you're recognized.
I don't get, okay. Excuse the senator from the 41st.
Without objection, Senator from the 41st is excused. Recognize Senator from the 31st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 30th for business outside the chamber.
Without objection, the senator from the 30th is excused. Senator from the 12th.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 43rd, from the 55th, the 44th, the 15th, the 35th, and the 10th. Thank you.
Are you sure you got them all? Without objection, the senator from the those senators are excused. Recognize the senator from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 27th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 27th is excused. Senator from the 34th, you're recognized again.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry. Would you excuse the senator from the 43rd, 44th, 39th, 15th, 40, well, I did 41 already, number 2,
Move to.
35, and 10.
Is there a motion from the senator from the 56th?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we suspend the roll.
Roll call. Is there objection? Hearing no objection, roll call suspended. I recognize at this time the senator from the 28th for the purpose of leading the pledge and the introduction of the chaplain. Doorkeepers, please prepare the chamber. Doorkeepers, please prepare the chamber.
Thank you, Mr. President. If y'all will all rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now to our Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, moderation. Thank you, members of the Senate, our guests in the gallery. Appreciate all 12 of y'all showing up today for our business inside the chambers. But it gives me great pleasure today to introduce a good friend of mine, Pastor Ralph Caldwell. He's pastor at Indian Creek Baptist Church, and if y'all would, please join me in welcoming his son, Colton Caldwell, is with us today as well. Pastor Caldwell, he's actually a chicken farmer down in Ephesus, Georgia, and Ephesus, we've come to determine, has more chickens per capita than Gainesville, so we have named it the per capita poultry capital of the world. And Pastor Caldwell is a big part of that. He's got about 500,000 chickens that he manages there, or they manage him. I don't know which is which, but one thing I've learned in politics is farmers there's two people they're close to. They're close to God, number one, and they're all politically connected. So they're close to what we do here. And I guess that reason is you got to know who to go to ask for rain, and then you got to know who to go to ask for when there isn't rain. So when I first ran for this seat, one of my first calls was to Ralph Caldwell. And when I called him up, I said, Ralph, I'm just announced for state senate, and I would love to have you and your dad's support. His dad's a county commissioner named Gwen Caldwell down in Heard County. And I said, I'd love to have your support. I know that would help me in Heard County tremendously and really throughout the district. And he said, Matt, me and Daddy were talking about you the other day, and his dad came to me and said, son, Matt's announced, are we going to support Matt? And Ralph's response was very quick. He said, Dad, there's no other candidate. We got to support him. And I was so honored that, that just without hesitation that Ralph would do that for me. And as I was kind of thinking about this story and being a part of this introduction today, it kind of dawned on me at the time I literally was the only candidate. So, but I appreciate Ralph getting his daddy's head right and then getting behind me. But without further ado, I want to introduce Pastor Ralph Caldwell. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for that, Senator Brass, and thank you, Mr. President. I've been told I've got 5 minutes, so I can't read as fast as you can. So, but I feel not only blessed and honored to be able to stand here today, but I feel probably I'm the most protected chaplain of the day that there's been. So as I look up here, I don't have to worry about anything bad happening to me this morning. But anyway, it's such a great honor to be here with you today. I've got a couple verses that I'd like to share with you that is found in the book of Proverbs, chapter 24, verses 3 and 4. Through wisdom is a house builded, and by understanding it is established. And by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. As we look and we think about knowledge and wisdom, our educational institutions work very hard to try to put knowledge into all of their students, to give them all they need to know in the respected fields that they are studying and also the careers in which they will be pursuing. But wisdom is something that, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is defined as knowledge that is gained by having many experiences in life. Also, the natural ability to understand things that most other people cannot understand. Knowledge of what is proper or reasonable, good sense or judgment. We can do a Google search or look into Google, and there's over 1 billion results that are associated with that of knowledge. And also a Google search of wisdom, there's 252 million. Proverbs speaks of wisdom in 55 times, of one of which we look at here today. With over 10 million Georgians, you ladies and gentlemen have an awesome responsibility. I stand here before you today as one that was called into the ministry nearly 30 years ago and have been serving in the ministry all those years. The law enforcement that's standing up or sitting up in the balcony today have a calling. That's why they do their jobs in which they do. I was actually a police officer in a previous life, as I tell people, back right out of high school and in college. And but you ladies and gentlemen, you senators, and those that work here for your support staff, I honestly believe with all my heart that you are serving a calling. A calling is something that is given to us that requires a lot of sacrifice. And I know that it is a great sacrifice for you to be away from your families, your jobs, your businesses, to come and help shape laws that affect these 10 million people. Also, I am a 6th generation Heard Countian. My great-great-grandfather pastored the very first church in my home community, and it's still thriving today. And he left a legacy that I follow, and also left a legacy of work that he had done that future generations. So you pass laws that not only affect those 10 million plus that are here today in Georgia, but also the millions that will follow after us. And it's my prayer that God will give you the wisdom that you need. This past Sunday, I preached from the book of Mark, of where Jesus had asked the disciples, who do people say that I am? And they had responded back of John the Baptist, Elias, one of the prophets. And I know today that there's a diversity of religions represented here in our state, and also I'm quite sure there's probably a diversity of religions that are here in this chamber that are represented. But one thing that all religions can agree upon is that Jesus did exist. Different ones may look to him, or religions may look to him as that of being a teacher, a prophet, a leader. And of course he asked Peter, he says, "Who do you say I am?" And Peter acknowledged, just exactly as I do, and I know as many of you do today, that you are the Christ. And so as we take that of looking back to Jesus and looking back to Scripture, it's not only a great guideline for us to follow religiously, but it's also a great guideline for all Americans, all people of all nations to follow. Back in the 1990s, the phrase, "What would Jesus do?" was very popular. We saw many people wearing bracelets, T-shirts, coffee mugs. I even had a pair of glasses back in my younger days that said WWJD on them. And that was a great reminder of what would Jesus do. So I encourage you, as you continue within the great work in which you're doing, I thank you for the work that you're doing, and I encourage you to do and work upon your legacy. As I talked about of my great-great-grandfather's legacy, let your legacy be one that is honorable, one that is full of wisdom. Let's bow our heads in a word of prayer. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you today just so thankful for this opportunity to stand before this great chamber. I thank you, Lord, for the work in which they do. I pray and ask, God, that you would just give them the wisdom that they need to make decisions that affect every one of us. We know, Lord, that they have people coming from every direction, every angle with their opinions and their views and their desires. But, Lord, the decisions are ultimately left up to those here under this gold dome. I pray and ask, God, that they will seek your wisdom. We know, Lord, that knowledge is something that can be learned, but wisdom is something that is gained. And, Lord, I pray and ask for your blessings upon them. I pray for your blessings to be upon their homes, their jobs, their businesses, as they're away serving this calling of serving their fellow man. We love you, we thank you, and we honor you. For it's in your name we do humbly pray. Amen. Thank you.
Pastor, thank you so much. Glad you were here. Their thoughts. You did great. Seriously. Very nice. Very nice, Pastor. Thank you again. Great message. Appreciate this. All right, great to see you. Oh, man. Where is Senator Jackson? All right. Where is Senator Jackson? I don't. Are there any unanimous consents? Mr. Secretary, we have a special guest with us today. Will you read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 1017 by Senators Jackson II and others, a resolution recognizing and commending Ambassador Judith Varney Shore and for other purposes, whereas Ambassador Judith Varney Shore was appointed in July of 2015 to serve as the Consul General of Israel to the southeastern United States, and whereas there is a special bond of friendship between the citizens of Georgia and Israel that inspires the people of Georgia to stand with the people of Israel in solidarity, and we welcome all opportunities to enhance our already deep relationship at all levels, including through cultural, academic, and business endeavors, and whereas it abundantly fitting and proper that the remarkable accomplishments of Ambassador Judith Varney Shore be appropriately recognized. Now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend Ambassador Judith Varney Shore for her diligent, resolute, and compassionate service as Consul General of Israel to the southeastern United States. That concludes the order.
Is there adoption to the resolution? Hearing none, I recognize the distinguished senator from the 2nd to introduce our guests.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of this body, I'm proud to present to some, introduce to others, Ambassador Shore. Ambassador Shore was appointed in July of 2015 to serve as Consul General of Israel to the southeastern United States. Ambassador Shore is nearly a 40-year veteran of the Israeli Diplomatic Corps who have served as ambassador to Hungary and Bosnia, as well as serving as the Minister of Congressional Affairs at the Israeli Embassy in Washington, D.C. Ambassador Shore is fluent in Hebrew, French, English, and Ambassador Shore is renowned for her breadth of knowledge and the depth of her diplomatic ability. There's a special bond, my sisters and brothers, and there's a special bond of friendship between the citizens of Georgia and Israel that inspires the people of Georgia to unite with the people of Israel in their stance for freedom, their stance for peace, their stance on security and civil rights for all citizens in this world. I present to you Ambassador Shore.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank all of you for supporting Israel and the Senate bills that affirms or reaffirms the bonds of friendship and cooperation between the state of Georgia and the state of Israel. I'm also very, very appreciative for your efforts to create a memorial for the Holocaust, which means a great deal for the Jewish community of Georgia. I want to tell you that I'm a Holocaust survivor's daughter. And both my parents are deceased. But they would have been very, very happy to know that in the post I am in at Atlanta, they decided in the US, the state Congress, to have a memorial. And I'm very thankful for you, like the entire Jewish community in Atlanta and everyone who thinks of it. Israel is at a turning point, 70 years. This is our anniversary. The important milestone as Israel is a leader, a world leader in innovation, technology, and outpost of democracy. The economy is good, very good. The military and the security conditions are good and calm down. The political situation in Israel, it's a miracle. We had problems till yesterday night, and they knew that I'm coming here to tell you there are no elections, the coalition goes on, and I think that the Prime Minister of Israel deserves a medal of genuinity. He overcame the problem. But you know, you can be strong, which we have to be strong, if your economy is strong. because the economy supports you. Israel was established after World War II to be a home for the Jewish people. 70 years later, we are standing successful, strong, and thankful for the United States of America who supported us, and to Georgia, the partner of the State of Israel, the Jewish community in Atlanta. I want to thank all of your efforts and support in Israel. Thank you very, very much for having me the opportunity to speak to you and to thank many of you while coming in, to thank you for your effort and support. Thank you very much.
Let's step right down here and get a photograph. Thank you very much, Madam Announcement. Very, very nice. Thank you. We have another special guest, a group of special guests with us today. Mr. Secretary, if you would read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 808 by Senators Albers of the 56 and others, a resolution recognizing March 14th, 2018 as Law Enforcement Appreciation Day at the Capitol and commending law enforcement officers in Georgia and for other purposes, whereas Law Enforcement Appreciation Day at the Capitol exists to honor this state's highly trained and professional law enforcement officers for putting their lives on the line every day and to commend them for everything they do. And whereas Georgia law enforcement officers put their lives on the line every day as they serve with honor, courage, dignity, and concern for their fellow citizens, now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize March 14, 2018 as Law Enforcement Appreciation Day at the Capitol and commend law enforcement officers in Georgia for protecting our communities and for putting their lives on the line every day. That concludes the order.
At this time, I would like to call upon the distinguished senator from the 56 to introduce our group, and followed by the distinguished senator from the 7th to add a few words.
Thank you, Mr. President. I could not be more honored to be before you today. Behind me, we have Major Johnson with the Georgia State Patrol, Director Keenan with the GBI, Lieutenant Colonel Weaver from the Department of Natural Resources, Commissioner Niles, Department of Juvenile Justice, Sheriff Deese, representing the sheriffs and the Sheriff's Association, as well as we've got Commissioner Dozier from Corrections. We've got the Chiefs of Police here. And if I could ask everybody who is in the gallery to please stand, our finest in Georgia. Let's give them a big round of applause. It is because you do what you do that we are able to be here today doing what we do. In just a moment, I'm going to ask the senator from the 7th, who's our distinguished chairman of Natural Resources and formerly of Public Safety. He started this event 4 years ago. This is the 4th year now. And the mission and the reason behind it has not changed. You did not choose this profession for fame or fortune. You did it because it was a calling. Your job has never been more dangerous, literally and figuratively. We want you to know that we've got your back. We care. We will be there for you in your time of need. And this legislature and this Senate is 100% committed to doing whatever we can to support you, to support your families, and the communities and departments for which you serve. You truly are our finest. With that, I'd like to introduce my friend, the senator from the 7th.
Well, good morning. As the senator from the 56 said, this is the 4th year that we have done this. We started this in 2015 as a way to honor our local, our state, and even our federal law enforcement officers in Georgia and show them the appreciation that we have here under the Gold Dome for the service that they provide to our state on a day-to-day basis. You know, Georgia has been named the #1 state in which to do business for 5 years in a row now. And I know I've said this a number of times in this Capitol and around this state, but the leadership of our governor and this General Assembly has allowed us to get to that point. But we can't be the #1 state in which to do business unless we're a safe state in which to do business. And the men and women that we're honoring today and the men and women that are in the gallery with us today help us make sure that we continue to be the #1 state to do business, because they make sure that we're the safest state in which to raise our families, in which to work, in which to live. And we appreciate the job they do on a day-to-day basis. We thank you for the service that you provide to our state. We know that it's you that are the boots on the ground that make sure that our state continues to be the safest place in which to live. And we appreciate your service and your willingness to lay down your life for another if that time calls for it. We appreciate your service to our state, and we thank you for all that you do. And at this time, I'm going to ask Commissioner Niles to bring a few comments on behalf of the group. Commissioner?
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, we thank you for this opportunity to this body. We thank you for the opportunity and the recognition that you have done. We make up some 38,000 men and women in uniform, as some of these are in the gallery and around the walls. We just thank you for the recognition. They lay their lives on the line day in and day out so that we can do the things that we do here. And we thank you for passing the laws that we enforce. And Madam Chair, or Mr. Chair, we just thank you, and we consider it an honor to be standing in recognition of these men and women that's represented here today. So keep us in your prayers, whether those are individuals that's incarcerated in our prison system or in our juvenile justice system, or whether that's in our sheriff's office or police department, in our community supervision. Throughout this state, men and women are doing the task while we sit and do the things that we do. So we're humbled that you take time out of your busy schedule to recognize us for the jobs that they do day in and day out. So thank you, Mr. President.
Because this is Women History Month, will the ladies upstairs please stand up? We just want to acknowledge you being out there, keeping us safe as well throughout this great state of Georgia. Georgia's finest and prettiest. Thank you.
Let's go around and get a photograph. Yep.
True words never said.
That was. At this time, does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Point of personal privilege, I recognize the senator from the 11th. May I have the Senate's attention? May I have the Senate's attention? Senator from the 11th is recognized for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to recognize today, March 14th, is Skin Cancer Awareness Day. We have a resolution, Senate Resolution 805 to that effect. As most of you know, skin cancer is one of the most common cancers that occur, and the great part about it is they can be treated and the cure rates are extremely better than they have been in the past. I don't think any of the folks are here in the gallery because they are downstairs in 216. They are doing skin cancer screens, and if any of you have a bump or a area on your skin that you're concerned about and you want to get it checked out, as I say, the docs are down in room 216 doing skin cancer screening. So please go by there and honor these physicians for what they do for protecting the public's health. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Thank you. At this time, we will recognize the senator from the 51st to introduce the doctor of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. It is a real honor for me to have the opportunity to introduce our doctor of the day. Dr. Stephen Gerard was a member of our military for many years. He's a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point. He began his medical career in 2000, and his service included 2 combat tours with a forward surgical team in Afghanistan. Dr. Gerard is a good friend of mine. I have the opportunity to visit with him many times during the year. He makes a tremendous contribution to the communities in Northeast Georgia, Clayton, Toccoa, and the other communities. We appreciate him and his service to his country, his service to his community, and his service to us today. So at this time, I'll call on Dr. Gerard for a few comments.
Thank you, Senator. Proud to call my senator. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Georgia Senate, pleased to be here before you today for just a minute and say that I hope that many of you have a doctor, a nurse, a dentist, or someone in your community, in your district, that's proud to call you their senator, and I hope you know them. I hope you look to them for advice, use them as a resource for medical policy and health care bills that come before you, because ultimately what's decided in this chamber works its way down to the basic level of health care, which is a doctor, a nurse, another provider in a room with a patient who cares about them, is taking care of them, and is a fellow member of their community. Thank you all for your service to this state, and I wish you good luck as this session winds up and what the future may hold. If you return here for further service, we give you all the good wishes for next time. Thank you all.
The senator from the 29th, you are recognized for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise this morning to discuss a meeting, an exchange of ideas that I was privileged to participate in this morning, along with the senator from the 15th and the rest of the delegation from Muskogee County. Obviously, there's been a lot of attention in the news about the Parkland shootings in Florida and a scheduled walkout called for in a lot of schools around the country. I want to applaud Dr. David Lewis, our Board of Education, and the students in Muskogee County for choosing instead to have a productive, positive exchange on public policy around gun legislation and school safety. We had a great conversation. We had a lot of different points of view expressed, but they were expressed with respect, and it's a conversation that I think we're going to be able to build on. And again, I just think it was a great way for educators to use this opportunity to teach students how they can constructively engage in the political process. And Mr. President, just to add one final note, I know there's been a lot of attention in the news over the last few days about the use of Liberty Plaza and a policy that evidently requires right now one of our constitutional officers to sign off on the use of Liberty Plaza. That is a taxpayer-funded facility that was expressly constructed for the opportunity for people to express themselves and participate in the dialogue that goes on under this Gold Dome every day. And I had the opportunity to speak to the senator from the 3rd earlier today, and he joins me in saying we should not have a policy that is going to even give the appearance of restricting content of free speech based on a viewpoint. We need to make sure that the policy for the use of taxpayer-funded facilities allows everyone, even people with whom we significantly differ, to be able to have their voices heard, because that's what this place ought to be about. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I recognize the senator from the 44th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, I am so honored today to recognize a couple of groups, and the very first group is the Georgia Council of Deliberation. We congratulate the council on their 65th anniversary. The Georgia Council of Deliberation of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rites of the Freemasonry was organized July the 28th, 1953 in Macon, Georgia, with the Grand Master John W. Jobs as his first deputy of the Orient. And we have with us today persons from that group. First, we have Mr. Primus James, 33rd degree. Raise your hand so we can see you. We also have Mr. Joel Baker, retired fire chief from Atlanta. Mr. Matthew Lewis, the first lieutenant. Rob Brown, the commander-in-chief. And Marcel Reed, past chief, and also the past city councilman for the city of East Point. Give these gentlemen a big hand. Also sitting in the gallery, we have a group. Would you all please stand in the gallery? Let's give them a warm welcome for the Georgia State Senate. Thank you all so much for being here. They go out in the community each year and make us proud. They do so much community service. And in Clayton County and in that area, they always participate in the Martin Luther King Ecumenical Service in honor of Dr. King. So we are so appreciative to you all. Thank you so much for being here at your capital. We appreciate you so much. The second group is the African American Association of Georgia. Wait.
Senator, please be brief. Your time has
Okay,
expired.
my time is expiring. Okay.
No, Senator, it has expired.
Oh,
Please
it
be
has
brief.
expired. Okay. The African American Association of Georgia, Eric Merriweather, the president and founder. Raise your hand. Come on down. President and founder, Latricia Titus, marketing director, Felicia Brown, board member, Praise Jackson, and Marvin Merriweather. This organization, I participate with them each year at the Turner Field, where they give out 800 baskets, 400, the Frito-Lay trucks are there, giving food to the senior citizens who can't get there. This year, they have agreed to do 1,200, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. President, and I yield the way.
Praise the Lord. At this time, I would like to recognize the senator from the 56th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've got a group here in the gallery today from Fellowship Christian School in my district. If you give them a big round of applause, I'd appreciate it. And then in a moment, I'm going to ask for your silence and a moment of prayer. I'm saddened to announce to you that there was a line of duty death in Cobb Fire and Emergency Services this Monday, March the 12th. Firefighter Stacy Lee Bulwer was just 44 years old. Earlier that day, she had worked a full cardiac arrest in a vehicle accident before she herself was transported to Kennestone Hospital and lost her life. Firefighter Bulwer began her fire career in 1999 as a long-term member of the hazmat team in Cobb County. She served in several different fire stations during her very distinguished career. In 2015, she received the Firehouse Magazine Heroism Award, along with Cobb County Fire and Emergency Services Firefighter Cross for Heroism in rescuing a trapped occupant from a fully involved apartment fire. Each and every day, our first responders go to work or volunteer not knowing if they're going to return home. Please keep firefighter Stacy Lee Bulwer, her family, her friends, and the department in your prayers. Senators, please join me in a moment of silence. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. At this time, I'd like to recognize the distinguished senator from the Gold Coast.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to announce to this body and to the people of the state of Georgia the good news of doors of opportunity that have been opened to children in foster care in need of good home. Those doors have been opened to them in the state of Texas. You see, last year Texas enacted a law just like Senate Bill 375, which does not prevent anyone, including gay couples, from adopting children, but rather it ensures that faith-based agencies will not be forced out of business by state action or have to defend needless lawsuits that are brought against them because they place children in accordance with their faith. Already since the effective date of this bill, which was in September, just 6 months ago, 3 more agencies have stepped in to provide more opportunities for children, including the Catholic Conference in Texas, groups associated with the Church of Christ, and Buckner International that's working with various faith-based groups. But what is also significant is that in Texas, big business and the chambers and the metro chambers did not rise up against the Texas version of Senate Bill 375. Perhaps they knew the truth about the bill, that it did not prevent anyone from adopting a child. They recognized that opening one more door to children would not be bad for business. In fact, the state of Texas has 2 cities on the Amazon list, Austin and Dallas. And they're also the #1 place in 2017 for economic climate for business. And they also, they recognize that not giving our children in need every opportunity to escape dismal odds is not a good thing to do. But we have some good news in Georgia. We have Senate Bill 375, which is just like the Texas bill. And I'm calling upon our businesses in this state to recognize this and to help us recognize the truth about 375. And let's help open one more door of opportunity for children in need, because they need it. They say that everything is bigger in Texas, but surely their hearts aren't bigger than the hearts of the people and the businesses in the state of Georgia. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. I call upon recognize the senator from the 34th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in recognition of the Georgia Dental Association Scarf Day, even though it looks like I'm not the only one that forgot to wear my scarf today. I did want to acknowledge that my dentist, Dr. Daryl McCullough, is in the Capitol today, and I'm so proud of her. I want to give her a shout out again in honor of the Women's History Month. Daryl, don't get it mistaken, it's not a guy, it is a girl, and she is a great dentist with gentle hands. So I want to thank my doctor, Dr. Daryl McCullough, for being here today on Georgia Dental Association Scarf Day. I yield the will.
Thank you, Senator. You have before you a consent calendar of privilege resolutions. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to the adoption of the consent calendar of privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions of the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? You have a consent calendar with several local bills before you. Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed to either of these bills or local consent calendar?
Mr. President, there are no objections filed.
Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the Committee on State and Local Government Operations, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. The question is on the passage of the bill, the local consent calendar. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. Mr. Secretary, if you would unlock the machines. On the passage of the consent calendar, the yeas are 48, the nays are 0. This obviously reaches the constitutional majority. Thank you. These bills are passed. The majority leader, stand by. Recognize the senator from the 25th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I'd just like to recognize my good seniors from Nathaniel Green that are here today. I missed the points of personal privilege, but I wanted to make sure I recognize them as a great group of kids, and they're going on to great things. So if you guys stand up and let's recognize them. So, thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Well said, Senator. The chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that House Bill 888, a tax bill, came out of our Finance Committee, be engrossed.
The majority leader has moved that House Bill 888 be engrossed. Are there any objections? There is objection. Any senator wish to speak? The minority whip.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President. Isn't it not best, especially with this body just recently taking up tax exemptions and saying how we need to look at these things with a very close eye? Is it not best not to engross this bill so we can fully vet this, especially since this body has weighed in on the issue of tax exemptions?
The gentleman is very passionate about what he believes. Recognize Senator from the second.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, isn't it true that, like the gentleman of the 22nd, this bill deserves a full debate along with making exceptions to making this legislation quite better? And engrossing this bill, we cannot enhance it and to make it better for the citizens of this great state.
The gentleman is very passionate about what he believes. Recognize Senator from the 45th.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, please.
Mr. President, isn't it true that bills that come out of the Finance Committee are almost always, if not always, engrossed?
The lady from the 45th is an individual of keen intellect. Motion. We'll vote now on the motion. The motion is on. All those in favor will raise your right hand. You count them.
Move to vote on the machine.
Move to vote?
Yes, sir. Move to vote on the machine.
Is there calls the yeas and nays? Call the yeas and nays. Put them on the board, Mr. Secretary. On the motion to engross, the yeas are 34, the nays are 17. And the bill is engrossed, and the chair recognizes the senator from the... Secretary, please read House Bill 513.
House Bill 513 by Representative Dickerson, the 113th and others, a bill will be titled enacted in Chapter 10A of Title 19 of the OCG relating to a safe place for newborns. This is to provide for signs to be posted at certain medical facilities to indicate locations where a newborn child may be left, such that the mother can avoid criminal prosecution and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services offers the following substitute to House Bill 513. A bill will be titled enacted in Chapter 10A of Title 19 of the OCG relating to a safe place for newborns so as to provide for signs to be posted at certain medical facilities, fire stations, or police stations to indicate locations where a newborn child may be left such that the mother can avoid criminal prosecution and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We recognize the senator from the 17th to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I bring to you House Bill 513. Under our current safe haven laws, a mother is not subject to certain criminal prosecution for certain offenses if she leaves a newborn child in the physical custody of an employee at a fire station, a police station, or a medical facility. All this bill is doing is making sure that we are publicizing this law to folks and requiring our Department of Human Services to develop standards for sign to be placed at these locations. And while we hope no one has to make this drastic decision, we acknowledge that our first priority is caring for these newborn children. And with that, Mr. President, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
There are no questions, Senator.
I ask for favorable consideration. Thank you.
The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Shall the main question now be put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Shall the bill pass by substitute? The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. Mr. Secretary, please unlock the machine. The yeas are 48, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the constitutional majority, passes. Mr. Secretary, if you'll read House Bill 695.
House Bill 695 by Reps of the 144th and others, a bill we titled Act to amend Code Section 4286 of the OCJ, relating special license plates, promoting and supporting certain beneficial projects, agencies, funds, or nonprofit corporations, so as to establish a specialty license plate honoring Georgia's working forests and the Georgia Forestry Foundation for other purposes. Amendment 1 by Senator Harper VII and others offers the following Amendment 1 to amend the House Bill 695 by adding after line 19 the following. Section 3, this act shall become effective on July 1st, 2019, then renumber accordingly. Amendment 2 by Senator Jackson II and others offers the following amendment. Amend House Bill 695 by inserting to establish a special license plate supporting the Sickle Cell Foundation of Georgia Incorporated after foundation on line 4 by replacing a new paragraph with 2 new paragraphs on line 11 by deleting the quotation mark at the end of line 15 and by inserting between lines 15 and 16 the following. 15, a special license plate supporting the Sickle Cell Foundation of Georgia Incorporated. The funds raised by the sale of this special license plate shall be dispersed to the Sickle Cell Foundation of Georgia Incorporated. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 18th to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Don't we all love trees? Don't we love to see trees? Don't we love to see forest? You're going to get a chance to vote on a great bill today that supports trees and supports forestry, and also gives us a chance for folks to have a tag. Number 1 in forestry, the Georgia Forestry Foundation tag. This is a great looking tag, and what HB 695 does is it supports educational initiatives of the Georgia Forestry Foundation. You know, the Georgia Forestry Foundation is going to connect the 10 million Georgians with the 22 million acres of working forests that we have in our state. Georgia benefits from working forests for many reasons. Number 1 and number 2, how about clean air and clean water? 2 great reasons to support this bill. We've got, in addition, Georgians should be proud that we live in the number 1 forestry state in the nation. 22 million acres of private timberland, more than any other state in the union. $35.2 billion economic impact, and 144,000 jobs across the state of Georgia. Folks, that's significant. This is a great industry, and this is a great way that we can support them. Some of the financial details, in case you're wondering, of the $25 fee to purchase a plate, $20 will go to the foundation. The foundation is doing great things with their educational initiatives, such as a forestry curriculum that aligns with STEM programs and teaching our young kids across the state. You may be aware that the First Lady Sandra Deal is getting a reading campaign for our kids across the state. And in fact, the book that she's reading is The Forever Tree. Trees Atlanta, the Chattahoochee Initiative Nature Center, and the University Scholarships are other things that the Georgia Forestry Foundation helps to support. So this is your great chance. Feel good about pressing green. Think about a green tree and think about being an environmentalist for just a moment and be proud that you voted for this bill. Senator, no trees were killed for this. This is, I assure you of that.
You have questions. Senator from 30, you're recognized for a question.
Is that the size of the license plate that goes on the log trucks that are cutting these trees down?
No, Senator, but I would agree with you that this tag is so nice that it should be bigger than normal. I would agree with you with that.
Recognize the senator from the 7th for a question. You have no further questions, Senator.
Great. I yield the well. Vote green and make yourself proud. Thank you.
Senator from the 18th, did you speak to Amendment 1?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was so excited about voting for this bill that I yielded the well a little too quickly. There is an amendment which has been authored by a senator from the 7th, and I have co-authored it. The Department of Revenue has requested that for all tags coming out in handling the revenue that they have an effective date of July 1, 2019. I think there's another tag bill that we have to vote on right after this. It has an appropriate date of July 1, 2019, so this is a friendly amendment. I would ask that you support the amendment. Do not object to it. This would make it consistent with what the Department of Revenue has requested with regard to what they need to do for their bookkeeping purposes.
Thank you, Senator. Senator, there are no questions.
Thank you. I yield the well.
I recognize the senator from the 2nd to speak to his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, along with this great bill, and I want to tell you, we should support this, the Georgia Forestry Foundation. It is a great bill. It's good for Georgia. I have a small amendment on line 11 by deleting quotation marks, and on line 15 by inserting a special license plate supporting the Sickle Cell Foundation of Georgia. The fund raised by this sale of special license plates shall be dispersed to the Sickle Cell Foundation of Georgia. Currently, there are 125 people in Georgia that have that either have sickle cell anemia or sickle cell trait. This is an awareness bill. It's a specialized tag, and it's just good for Georgia. It's good that we recognize sickle cell anemia, and it's a good bill that supports sickle cell anemia. I urge you to support the amendment. It does not hurt the bill. It's just good government. If there are no questions, I yield the well.
There are no questions, Senator. The question is on amendment number 1. Is there objection? Seeing none, amendment number 1 is adopted. The question is on amendment number 2. Is there objection? Seeing none, amendment number 2 is adopted. Does any senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question now be put? Are there any questions? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass as amended? The question is on the passage of the bill as amended. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. Mr. Secretary, if you'll unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate accept the conference committee report on Senate Bill 3.
Read the caption.
Committees of Conference report on Senate Bill 3. The Committees of Conference on Senate Bill 3 recommend that both the Senate and the House of Representatives receive from their positions and that the attached Committees of Conference substitute to Senate Bill 3 be adopted for the Senate Tippins of the 37th and others. Committees of Conference substitute to Senate Bill 3, a bill will be titled and enacted in Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education so as to enact the Creating Opportunities Needed Now to Expand Credential Training Act, provide for industry credentialing for students who complete certain focused programs of study, to provide for industry credentialing and individual graduation plans, provide for the identification of certain critical and emerging occupations, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Thank you. Senator from the 37th, if you'll stand by, recognize the senator from the 14th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. The senator from the 21st and I would like to take this time to recognize a special group to us. They would have been with us before, but as you know, they were over in the House, and we know how long-winded they are over there. But if the Cherokee County Chamber delegation and board members and leadership wouldn't mind standing, we'd like to recognize you, Pam, and their group. I don't know if they're still up there, but they were here a little bit earlier. But they've come down and joined us down here in the gallery and then across over in the House, and we just thought I'd let them know how much we appreciate what they do up in Cherokee County. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I bring you the conference committee report on SB 3. If you'll remember, this was passed last year. It's a credentialing bill for applied technology courses in our high schools. I think it passed the Senate almost unanimously last year. The bill that came back to us is the exact LC number that we passed last year. The additions to it have been stripped out, and it's in its entirety of how we passed it. I urge your favorable consideration and overwhelming passage of it. Thank you, Mr. President.
You have questions, Senator. Senator from the 38th, you're recognized.
Will the senator yield?
Always.
Thank you very much. In looking at this, I'm a little puzzled as to why, and it doesn't matter because it's stricken, kindergarten, it was listed kindergarten through 12, and of course, we are now saying 6 through 12, but the content, the career-oriented learning, that we are questioning to some degree if even the 6th grade is a little young for that type of course, rigorous courses that you have, and apprenticeship and internships and that type of thing. So I'm just kind of asking the genesis behind going with the 6 through 12 for our students.
The purpose behind this bill is we're attempting to utilize better career counseling. The reason it was taken out of K through 5 was because we felt like that time was better utilized in addressing the needs in foundational education. The reason middle school is in that is because at the end of 8th grade, they have to fill out an individualized graduation plan. This is not so much a specialized exposure to specific fields, but it's more of a career awareness than career training. And that's the reason that middle school is in it, because we have a mandated individualized graduation plan in the last half of the 8th grade.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator, there are no questions.
Thanks,
No
sir.
further questions.
I yield the well.
The senator has moved that we adopt the conference committee report. All those in favor of the motion of the senator from 37th will vote yea. Opposed will vote nay. Mr. Secretary, if you'll unlock the machines. On the motion, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This, obviously receiving the constitutional majority, is hereby passed. Mr. Secretary, if you'll read House Bill 784.
House Bill 784 by Representative Dubnik of the 29th and others. The bill will be titled enactment code section 4286 of the OCGA relating to special license plates promoting and supporting certain beneficial projects, causes, agencies, funds, or nonprofit corporations so as to establish a specialty license plate to promote the conservation and enhancement of waterfowl populations and their habitats and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Call upon the senator from the 28th to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, today I bring before you House Bill 784. This bill will create a special license plate for Ducks Unlimited, one of the largest nonprofit organizations in the world. And the senator from the 18th had a great presentation with a good example of what that plate's going to look like, and I wanted to make sure y'all had an idea. It's actually, we're going to do this one a little different. There'll be a statewide art competition. Anyone is eligible. So I'll be submitting this. The plate could potentially look like this, but it potentially could not. I may not win, but I figure this would be a good chance to lobby. But basically, let me tell you a little bit about Ducks Unlimited. They've got nearly 1 million members in North America, including 20,000 right here in Georgia. They're committed to conservation of wetlands and waterfowl habitats. The funds raised by the sale of this special license plate, they're going to be dispersed to the Wildlife Resource Division of the Department of Natural Resources for purposes of waterfowl habitat restoration, waterfowl research, and waterfowl management programs right here in Georgia. Thank you, Senator. And in regards to the date, this act is going to be, you'll notice on line 20, it's going to be effective July 1st, 2019, as requested by the Department of Revenue. And with that, Mr. President, I'll yield for questions.
Thank you, Senator. Unfortunately, you have a couple of questions. Senator from the 56th is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
Oh, sure will.
Senator, does this bill have anything to do with sprinkler systems in commercial buildings?
That is a negative. It has to do with ducks and license plates.
And Senator,
and
will
wetlands.
yield for one more question?
I certainly will for the senator from the 56th.
Is this your first bill or second bill?
No, we're getting on up there.
The senator from the 20th is recognized for a question.
Senator, will you yield for a series of questions?
Certainly, for my good friend from the 20th.
Thank you, Senator. I didn't hear your presentation. I may need a hearing aid. Maybe you could help me with that. Would that be a possibility?
I didn't hear what you said.
Senator, I'm concerned here that there's kind of a conspiracy going on today in the Georgia State Senate, and I'm very alarmed by it. It seems to me, and tell me if I'm right or not, but it seems like you and the senator from the 18th are tag teaming us today.
Senator, I have some aluminum foil in my desk over there I will get to you that will help combat any conspiracy theories you may have.
Senator, there are no further questions.
Well, before I yield, Mr. President, I'd just like to commend Representative Dubnik on this bill. He has worked hard for this for really about 15-year process, and it took him getting elected to actually get it done. And so, but he seriously, in all seriousness, has worked tirelessly for this, and so I support him and certainly support Ducks Unlimited. So with that, I encourage your favorable consideration for House Bill 784.
Thank you, Senator. As they say, the wheels of government move slowly. Does any senator wish to speak for or against the bill, or quack for or against the bill? Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is now agreed to. Shall the main question now be put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall the bill now pass? The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. Mr. Secretary, if you'll turn on the machines. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the constitutional majority, is therefore passed. That's it. Great job. Great job. Mr. Secretary, read House Bill 830.
House Bill 830 by Representative Hardin of 148th and others, the bill will be titled enactment Chapter 13, Title 16 of the OCGA relating to controlled substances, so as to change certain provisions relating to Schedules 1 and 2 controlled substances, to change certain provisions relating to the definition of dangerous drug and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
The chair recognizes the senator from the 13th to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a simple bill, ladies and gentlemen. This is the annual update from the GBI of the classes of bill of drugs. So I would ask the Senate's favorable consideration for House Bill 830. If there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
Senator, there are no questions. Senator Harbison, excuse me, Senator from the 15th, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 5th.
Without objection, the senator from the 5th is excused. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question now be put? Are there any questions? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. Mr. Secretary, if you'll unlock the machines. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48, the nays are 0. This bill, having the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Secretary, if you will read House Bill 888.
House Bill 888 by Representative Knight, 130th, and others. The bill will be titled Enactment in Part 1 of Article 2, Chapter 5, Title 48 of the CGA, relating to tax exemptions for property tax, so as to change certain reporting requirements and for other purposes. Mr. President, the State Committee on Finance offers the following substitute to House Bill 888. The bill will be titled Enactment in Part 1 of Article 2, Chapter 5, Title 48 of the CGA, relating to tax exemptions for property tax, so as to change certain reporting and proof of filing requirements and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th to present the bill.
Quack. I'm back. Thank you, Mr. President. I now present HB 888. This is intended to clarify and preserve the General Assembly's intent in terms of the value of Freeport exemptions to economic development. And we basically do this through several points. If you look at lines 21, 25, 29, and 39, those require the application for Freeport exemption to include a summary of inventory. And that's all prescribed by the Department of Revenue. If you look at lines 49 through 51, we've got some clerical errors or any unintentional immaterial error that the application cannot be thrown out. And then if you look at lines 79 through 82, this provides that the County Board of Tax Assessors fails to issue a letter of denial for Freeport exemption within 180 days, then that application will be deemed acceptable. If you look at lines 146 and 157, it simply clarifies that manufacturing includes the combining or assembly of component parts. And you'll see the changes proposed in HB 888 are taxpayer friendly and supportive of economic development efforts throughout Georgia, and they're intended to ensure consistency, fairness, and transparency. I'll add the bill is passed by the House unanimously, and it is certainly supported by our Georgia Manufacturing Association as well as our Georgia Chamber. With that, Mr. President, I'll yield for questions.
There are questions, Senator. The senator from the 26th is recognized for a question.
Senator Yield.
I yield.
How does this bill affect those communities that have the kaolin industry, and many times they wanted to put a Freeport tax on those particular industries?
It is my understanding this is going to deal...
this deals with exemptions.
Yes, sir.
So how would that affect if you wanted to put a tax on the kaolin industry?
I don't know the answer to that, Senator.
You don't know?
I do not know the answer to that. This dealing more, in my understanding, this deals more with manufacturing.
What? Senator Yield.
I yield.
Isn't it true that the kaolin industry deals with a lot of manufacturing because the kaolin industry produces a lot of materials that go to a lot of manufacturers? Isn't that true?
That is true, yes, sir.
So wouldn't you think that it somehow, before we pass this particular bill, that we need to find out exactly how that will affect the industry in itself, when on several occasions there have been questions about whether to put a tax on the kaolin industry or any other industry?
Well, to my knowledge, that question has not come up through the committee process, but you may know better than I.
With the gentleman yield further?
Certainly.
Would you be willing to just to step out the well and we discuss it before we try to pass this bill?
Senator, with all due respect, I think this bill has been through the process, has been vetted, and you know, you can certainly make your concerns, and you're a senator and you have every power to do whatever you want to do. If there's some sort of amendment you wanted to offer, you can certainly do that. But at this time, I think we're ready to move this bill forward.
Would the senator yield further?
Yes, sir.
Senator, isn't it true we've not vetted it on this floor of the House and really have not had any conversation about the exemption of Freeport?
Other than the last 30 seconds, that's probably true.
And again, I would ask the senator, out of caution, would you step down and we approach the lieutenant governor or the senator or the secretary to discuss it?
What's the posture there?
You can yield the well or you can continue. But you have other questions as well.
After I take the other questions, Senator, I'll yield the well and you and I can discuss.
All right.
Senator from 31st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does Senator yield?
I yield.
Senator, isn't it true that the kaolin industry would benefit from this bill just as every other manufacturing industry in our state would benefit from this?
I feel like it would, but that y'all probably know that industry way better than I.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator from 26, do you have further inquiry?
Senator, yield.
I yield.
Senator, isn't it true what I'm questioning is the exemption? All of them will benefit if you exempt it. What I'm asking is to try to get some determination or an explanation on how this will affect any community, especially those where the kaolin industry has been in for years. I'm not asking to vote against the bill. Only thing I'm asking is that we discuss it just to find out where we are on it, because I represent a lot of the kaolin industry in my district. And so I'm just trying to get an explanation as to how this will affect anything that we do, period.
Well, Senator, you asked me to step off the well, and I'll do that, and we can just have that quick discussion. I yield the well.
The senator has yielded the well. The question is on the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. All those in favor? Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question now be put? Are there any questions? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass by substitute? The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. Mr. Secretary, if you unlock the machines. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I'd like to take a moment to welcome the senator from the 53rd. In those great words of Mark Twain, the rumors of my demise are greatly exaggerated. Glad to have you with us. Mr. Secretary, if you'll read House Bill 909.
House Bill 909 by Representative Silcox of the 52nd Row. This is a bill we titled enactment in Chapter 2A of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to the Department of Public Health, so as to provide for the designation of perinatal facilities, provide for legislative findings, provide for definitions, provide for criteria for the levels of care, to provide for applications from perinatal facilities, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Call upon the senator from the 52nd to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill deals with perinatal facilities in our hospitals. There are about 80 hospitals that would be affected by this in the state of our 175. My particular hospital is not in OBGYN business, and so it actually has no effect on my particular hospital, so I did want to say that. But what we've done in the past, we've set up standards for cardiac care, we've set up standards for stroke. This is along the same lines. Georgia is near the bottom in maternal mortality in the nation. I really don't want to give the numbers. They're not great. But what we will be doing is doing what other states have done and setting up standards so that hospitals can be designated as the level of care that they provide. They will have to meet these standards to do that, and the Department of Public Health would be monitoring these standards. There's also money in the budget, requested in the budget, we don't know the final budget yet, that would help some of these rural facilities to get the supplies that they may need or equipment to also meet these standards. We also will be using something that's important to me is the data from all these issues around these hospitals centrally collected and say what do the data analytics say we can do to make improvements in this area. So this is an effort by the OBGYN Society, by the Department of Public Health to improve this in our state, just as we've done with cardiac care and with stroke care. If there's no questions, I'll yield the well.
You have questions, Senator. Senator from the 26th, recognized for a question.
The senator yield.
Certainly, I'll yield.
When I read the bill, how much money is in the budget to deal with this? It's all about money. We did, as a state, not an individual, but as a state, we refused Medicaid expansion, which would have gave us some money to put in here. I'm not blaming any one person. I'm talking about as a state, because the state passed a bill that said that anything dealing with Medicaid, that the General Assembly would make that decision. So where in the budget is there money to put in these facilities to do the kind of things that you're talking about?
There's been a request for $2 million, and this is separate from Medicaid. You've got your opinion on that. I've certainly got mine, and everybody does. But this is a bill that will provide standards to help our hospitals be consistent, to find those hospitals that maybe don't have the best practices or don't have particular supplies they may need to be well equipped for these issues, and to bring consistency and a higher level of care to our hospitals in Georgia.
With the senator for the yield.
I'll yield.
Senator, and I understand and I agree with the bill, but with it carries a tag. It carries a tag. You can't do these things without having some money to do it. When you finish with your bill, and I will support it, but I need to talk to you about how do we get there, because it's going to take real money to do these things that you're talking about doing.
I think the senator knows of which he speaks. I'll yield the well. I don't believe there are any more questions.
Thank you, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection to agreeing to the favorable report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question now be put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Shall the bill now pass? The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. Mr. Secretary, if you'll unlock the machines. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. The chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate disagree to the House substitute to SB 2.
Mr. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 2 by Senators Dugan of the 30th and others. A bill will be titled Enactment Chapter 60 of Title 36, Chapter 1 of Title 43, and Title 50 of the OCGA, relating to general provisions applicable to counties and municipal corporations, general provisions regarding professions and businesses, and state government, respectively, so as to enhance accountability and notice requirements for agency rulemaking so as to reduce regulatory burdens on businesses and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Is there objection? Hearing none, the Senate has disagreed with the House. You have voted on this previously. You have seen this bill. And we are insisting on the Senate position. So is there objection? There is no objection. Hearing none, the Senate has disagreed with the House. I would like to further recognize the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand adjourned until 10 o'clock a.m. on tomorrow morning, Thursday, March 15th.
Mr. Secretary will read the announcements.
Rules will meet upon adjournment at 4:50 at the Capitol. Insurance and Labor will meet at 1 p.m. and 3:10 at the CLOB. Public Safety will meet at 1 p.m. in MES. Transportation has been canceled. Finance Income Tax Subcommittee will meet at 2 p.m. in MES 1. Finance will meet at 3 p.m. in MES. Education and Youth will meet at 3 p.m. and 4:50 at the Capitol. Judiciary will meet at 4 p.m. and 3:07 at CLOB. And Health and Human Services will meet at 4 p.m. and 4:50 at the Capitol. That concludes the order.
The Senate will stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Any further announcements? Further announcements? All those in favor will vote yea. Yea. All those opposed, nay. Yea. The nays. The yeas clearly have it. We stand adjourned.